everybody, welcome to my 14th ASMR video. I wanted to keep reading the book today that we started last week because I'm literally itching to keep reading. Someone commented on the last video saying that this was their favorite Lisa Jewell book, and I'm even more excited to keep reading now. Just a quick reminder, we left things off last time. I think it was chapter 4, August 2018, that we left the chapter off with Carrie and the matron telling Sophie, I think the writer, I'm sure she's a writer, about the woods that were near her apartment and how it was dangerous to head that way because people get lost in the woods, and they even had a case last year where they had to have the police involved. And that's where we let things off, with Sophie saying she wouldn't go there, but secretly she was already planning in her mind to walk there and look over a dark place, the place where there was a swimming pool, a tennis court, and I think it was abandoned because no one lived there anymore. So now that we're all caught up, chapter 5 is September 2016. Scarlet Shock is standing next to Tallulah in the queue at the canteen. She's 5'10", thin as a stick. Her bleached hair is dyed pale blue and gathered on top of her head in a bundle, and someone has drawn a tiny rainbow on her cheekbone. She's wearing a man's hoodie with sleeves that come to her knuckles and a pair of oversized jersey shorts with high-top trainers. Her fingers are covered with heavyweight rings, and her fingernails are painted green. She hovers over the miniature cereal boxes, her fingers dancing across their spines until they land decisively on Rice Krispies. She grabs it and adds it to her tray next to a carton of chocolate soya milk and an apple. Tallulah watches her head to the till. Her people are already gravitating toward her, following in her wake, ensuring that they will find space next to her once she has decided where she will sit. Tallulah picks up a ham sandwich and an orange juice and pays for them. She sits at a table close to Scarlett's. Scarlett sits with her long legs stretched out, her huge high-top trainers resting on the chair opposite her, her shins still boasting a silky summer tan. She opens the chocolate soya milk and pours it onto her Rice Krispies, then lowers her face to the bowl and shovels them into her mouth with a spoon. At one point, she spills chocolate milk down her chin and wipes it away with the cuff of her hoodie. She's with the kids she always hangs out around with. Tallulah doesn't know their names. Scarlett and her clique all used to go to the posh school in Tallulah's village, Maple House. Maple House, which has a reputation for being thick rich kids, or rich kids with behavioral issues, or rich kids with ADHD, or rich kids with drug abuse problems. They screech around the village in their convertible mini clubmans, stalk into the local pubs with their fake ideas and their loud voices and their rich kid hair. In the co-op, you could hear them before you saw them, calling to each other across the aisles about how there was no fresh mozzarella, then talking across the heads of the village teenagers, manning the tills as if they didn't even exist. Now a small group of them has, for some unknown reason, ended up at the local further education college in Manton, the nearest town. Most of them are in their first year of a fine art diploma. A couple of them are studying fashion. They clearly all come from families that had expected them to end up in good universities, and instead had ended up at Manton College of Further Education, and consequently there is a defensiveness about them. Tallulah puts a hand to her belly. The flesh there is still so loose and blubbery. It's been nearly 3 months since she gave birth, but it feels like half her inside are still made of baby. She stopped breastfeeding a week ago, and her breasts still leak sometimes, and she keeps pads inside her bra. She switches on her phone and looks at the photo of Noah on her home screen. Her stomach flips a mixture of unbearable love and fear. For 3 months, she and Noah have been inseparable. Her first day at college last week was the first time she'd left him for longer than a few minutes. Now he's half an hour away from her, a bus ride, 6.5 miles away, and her arms feel weightless. breasts feel heavy. She texts her mom, all okay? Her mom replies immediately, just got back from looking at the ducks, all good. At the next table, Scarlett has zoned out from talking to her clique and is staring at her phone in a way that suggests she's not really looking at anything. She rolls the apple on the tray around and around with the fingers of her spare hand. Her face in profile is interesting. There's a bump in her nose, a slight curve to her chin. Her mouth is a thin line, but still she is somehow prettier than any other girl at college, even the ones with the perfect noses and the pillow lips. She turns and catches Tallulah staring at her. She narrows her eyes, then turns away from her, drops her feet back to the floor, picks up the apple and tucks it in the pocket of her hoodie, and leaves her group of friends without saying goodbye to any of them. She passes Tallulah, she narrows her eyes again, and Tallulah imagines, for a split second, that she sees a smile pass across her face. June 2017, Chapter 6. Kim buckles Noah into his car seat and gives him one of his fabric books to flick through. Ryan sits in the car with him while Kim gets into the driver's seat and switches on her phone to put the address into Google. I hope you like that mix over there. Dark place, she says as she types. It's only a mile away. I wonder why I've never heard of it before. She slots her phone into its holder, presses start, and pulls out of the quiet cul-de-sac where she has lived since she was 21 years old. She hums distractedly under her breath. She doesn't want Noah to pick up on her anxiety, doesn't want Ryan to have to deal with her mountain feelings of dread and fear. They drive through the sun-tabled lanes that connect Upfield Common with Madden, the nearest big town. Just before the large roundabout that marks the end of the village, Google tells them to turn right up a tight dog leg. The signpost is overgrown with Butlia. I don't know what it is, but Kim has just made out the words Uplifold half. It's single-lane road. She drives cautiously in case she meets vehicles coming the other way. It's nearly 4 p.m. and the sun is still high in the sky. She peers into the rearview mirror and sees Ryan and says to Ryan, "Can you put the screen down on Noah's side? He's in full sun." Ryan leans across and pulls it down. Noah points at something in his fabric book and attempts to tell Ryan what it is, but he hasn't learned how to talk yet, so Ryan just looks at the page and says, "Yes, Piggy. That's right, Piggy." Google tells her to take the next turning on the right. She cannot believe that there's actually a turning on the right, but there it is, a track with the line of meadow grass running down its center. The hedgerows lower here, so Kim can see blinding fields of rape, some cows silhouetted in the distance, a cluster of cottages, and then, after another few minutes, a pair of metal gates, a gravel driveway pointing due south, the name Dark Place, fashioned out of wrought iron, the suggestion of a turreted house in the distance. Kim turns off the engine and puts her phone into her handbag. "What are you going to do?" asks Ryan. Her eyes scan the gate for a doorbell or entry system, but there's nothing. A footpath runs alongside the gravel drive. She gets Noah's pushchair out of the boot and assembles it, batting midges out of their face. "Come on," she says to Ryan, unclipping the fastening on Noah's seat. "We're going to walk." Ryan uses his phone to Google Dark Place, and he gives her a running commentary from its wiki page as they walk. Kim enjoys the distraction from her thoughts. "It was built in 1643, he says. "Wow, 1643, he repeats. "But most of it got burned down a few years after it was built. It lay empty for 70 years, and that's how it got the name Dark Place, because of the charred wood that surrounded it. The Georgian wing was added in 1721, and the Victorian wing in the late 1800s by a coffee plantation owner called Frederick the Thames. Oh, God," he pauses and scrolls back, "who fathered at least 38 children in Colombia, 7 in the UK, and died of the Spanish flu when he was only 41. The house was left to his last wife, Carolina the Thames, who was only 20 when he died, and who passed it on to her son Lawrence. In 1931, 3 of Frederick's older children plotted to have Lawrence assassinated, but the man they hired to kill him got caught in a fox trap in the grounds of Dark Place and wasn't found until 5 days later orders on a signed form in the pocket of his coat. The three brothers who plotted Lawrence's death were sent to prison, and Lawrence lived in the house until he died in 1998. Whereupon, with no living heirs, the house went back on the market and was purchased by an unknown buyer for nearly £2 million in 2002. As they walked, Kim cast her eyes across the ground, across the horizon, all around her, looking for signs of her daughter. She called all three local taxi companies before leaving the house, and none of them had collected anyone from Dark Place last night. They walked for nearly 10 minutes until finally she sees the house. It looks just as Kim had expected it to look from Ryan's description. A hodgepodge of disparate architectural styles blended almost seamlessly together across three wings set around a central courtyard. The sun sparkles off the diamonds of leaded windows on the left wing and large Victorian casement and sash windows on the right. It should be a mess, but it is not. It is exquisitely beautiful. In the driveway are 4 cars and a golf buggy. Even from here, Kim can hear the sound of people splashing in the swimming pool. Ryan helps her pull Noah's buggy up the steps in the front door, and she rings the bell. A young man answers. A huge Saint Bernard dog follows behind and collapses, panting at his feet. The man is bare-chested and holding a 6-pack of beers in one hand and a tea towel in the other. He looks from Kim to Noah to Ryan and back to Kim. Hi. Oh, hi. My name is Kim. I wondered if Scarlett was around. Or her parents. Yeah, sure. Hold on a sec. He turns and yells out, Mom, someone for you at the door. Behind him, Kim sees a pale stone staircase with a stripe around her up the middle. She sees modern art and designer light fittings, and then a woman in a loose white sundress and white flip-flops appears. The dog stands heavily to greet the woman, who peers at Kim curiously through the door. The boy smiles at Kim and then disappears. Yes, says the woman. Sorry to disturb you like this on a Saturday. By the way, side note as I keep reading, for some reason sometimes I have a Canadian accent when I say sorry, and it almost came out right now when I said sorry. I don't know where it comes from. I literally am Albanian. I don't even know. I have no connections to Canada, but it will come up as I read, so I hope you enjoy. Sorry to disturb you like this on a Saturday. The woman looks across her shoulders at the gravel sweep and says, How did you get here? Oh, says Kim, we parked at the gate and walked. But that's half a mile. You should have rung the bell. Well, we looked, but we couldn't see one. Ugh, yes, sorry. It's a movement sensor. You need to stand over it. Lots of people miss it. You should have called. Well, I didn't have a number. Or at least I had a number, but I didn't realize how far the house was going to be from the gate. But anyway, it's fine. It's just, I'm looking for my daughter. Oh, she says. Are you Mimi's mom? I think she left this morning. No, Kim says. No, sorry. I'm not Mimi's mom. I'm Tallulah's mom. She was here last night? Tallulah, the woman rubs the dog's head absentmindedly with a hand bearing just one white band on her wedding finger. Gosh, no, I don't think I know a Tallulah. Lola, she suggested. She hated the name Lola, but her daughter's friends have always tended to shorten her full name. It's something she'd learned to accept. No, the woman shakes her head. No, I've never heard of a Lola either. Are you sure she was here? Kim is hot and anxious. There's no shade where she's standing, and the sun is beating down on the back of her neck. She can feel a hot dampness breaking out all over her body and feels a flash of anger at this woman in her crisp white sundress and freshly brushed hair, her cool, dry complexion, and the suggestion in her clipped English accent that Kim is somehow mistaken and in the wrong place. She nods and tries to keep her voice pleasant. Yes, I spoke to your daughter a couple of hours ago. She said Tallulah was here last night with her boyfriend Zach, and they left in a minicab at 3 a.m. But I've called all the minicab numbers, and none of them has a record of a pickup from this address or anywhere in the vicinity of this address. And it's nearly 4 p.m. and my daughter is still not at home. And this, she points behind her at Noah in his buggy, is Tallulah's son, and she would never deliberately leave him. Just never. Her voice begins to crack dangerously, and she breathes in hard to stop herself from crying. to say about all of this. Follow me. She leads them across the courtyard and through a tall wrought iron gate set in an ancient brick wall grown over with ivory. The huge dog pads heavily behind them. The courtyard is matted with tiny white stone figures set on perspex plinths. Again, no clue what that means, guys. They follow her down a flagstone path lined with sculptural plants in cobalt glaze pots and then turn a corner. In front of them is the pool. It is set in cream marble terrace with a garden pagoda at one end housing a huge cream cushioned daybed. At angles along its length are teak sunbeds with matching cream cushions. Floating at the pool center inside a bright pink inflatable flamingo is a tall, thin girl with lime green hair and a black bandeau bikini top. She peers at Kim and her entourage curiously, then she says, "Oh," as the penny drops. "Tallulah," says Josh, shielding her eyes from the sun, shining up the pool surface with her head. "Apparently she was here last night. Any idea where she got to?" Scarlet pushes herself to the pool's edge by paddling her hand through the water. Then she dismounts the flamingo and ascends the stone steps. She pulls a black towel around herself and sits down at a teak circular table covered with white candles in glass jars. Kim sits opposite her. "I know," she begins. "You said that you don't know where they went. I know you said that Tallulah was sick and they got a minicab, but the cab firms are all saying that they didn't pick anyone up from here. I just wondered if there was anything else that happened last night that might even explain where they are." Scarlet picks up the wax on top of one of the candles and makes no eye contact with Kim. "Genuinely," she says, "honestly, that's all I know." "And did you see them getting into a car?" "No, I was out here with Mimi, and Zach came and said Lola had been sick and he was going to take her home. There was there was a taxi coming." "He said that the taxi was coming? Or did he say he was going to call one?" Scarlet shrugs. Kim watches the crystal beads of pool water coalesce and collapse on her angular shoulders and run down her arms in rivulets. I'm pretty sure he said one was coming." Kim can see Ryan hovering in her peripheral view. She pulls out a chair from him. He sits down, bringing Noah's pushchair close to him. "So is there a chance? Do you think that Zach tried to call a taxi and no one could send one, so they ended up walking?" "Yeah," says Scarlet. "I guess." Kim turns to Scarlet's brother, who is perched on the end of a sunbed across the pool with a bottle of beer hanging between his knees. "Were you here last night at the party?" She goes over to him. He puts out a hand defensively and says, "No, not me. I just got home this morning." Kim sighs, and if they had walked, where they might have been ended. Kim sighs, and if they had walked, where might they have ended up? Scarlet shrugs again. "It depends, I suppose, on which way they went. If they went up the driveway, they could have ended up on the main road, or up the fold if they turned the wrong way. If they went to the back path, they would have ended up in Upfield Common." "The back path?" "Yes," she replies, waving her hand in the vague arc behind her. "There." Kim gazes over her shoulder. All she can see are lawns and flower beds and hedges and gravel pathways and pockmarked stone steps and sundials and arbors. "Where?" "Beyond," says Scarlet. "Behind. There's a path that goes through the woods and into the back end of Upfield Common, near the maple. I used to walk that way to go to school sometimes when I was there." "How far?" Joss interjects. "A mile, just over. But I wouldn't recommend it, especially not with the baby. You really need to know where you're going, otherwise you'll get lost." "Did Tallulah know about the back path?" Scarlet shrugs. "I don't think so. She said she'd never been here before, so there's no reason she should have known about it." "And who else?" Kim continues. "Who else was here last night?" "Just us three," says Scarlet, "and Mimi. Lexi Mulligan was here before they left. She lives at Maple House. Her mom's the matron there, you know. Carrie Ann Mulligan." Kim nods. She knows Carrie Ann well. Everyone in Upfield Common knows Carrie Ann. She's larger than life. Yeah, her daughter, she's like in her 20s, but she's left early. She was driving, and she took my friend Liam with her. So after that, it was just you, Tallulah, Zach, and Mimi. Yup. And your mom and dad. Mom was here. She was asleep. Dad's away on business. Kim turns to Jaws, who is sitting on the steps behind her, listening into the conversation. You don't happen to have security cameras, do you? Anywhere in the grounds? Jaws nods and says, yes, tons of them. I'm afraid I haven't got the vaguest idea how to use them. She glances across her son. Rex, any idea to look at the camera footage? Rex grimaces. Not really. I know there's like some kind of centralized panel in Dad's study, but I've never actually used it. Kim says, do you think we might try? And as she says it, she feels the mood change immediately. Until now, she's been a minor distraction, entertained on their own terms. Now she's asking people to go indoors, to open doors, work out how to use equipment. She sees the three of them exchange looks. Then Joss gets to her feet and approaches Kim and says, tell you what, save us all traipsing about in Martin's office. Why don't I just get Rex to have a look in the pit? I'll get to have him give Martin a ring to talk him through it. Scarlett's got your number. We'll call you if we find anything. Kim still has so many things she wants to ask, so many questions she needs answers to. She's not ready to go. You said Tallulah hadn't been here before, she asks, a hint of desperation in her voice. And on the phone earlier, you said you didn't really know her. I mean, you didn't even know she had a child. So what? I mean, why was she even here? Scarlett pushes her towel over her shoulders like a cloak and rubs it at her ears with its corners. We chat sometimes, she says, at college. Then I saw her in the pub last night, and we had a few drinks, and one thing led to the other. Kim's eyes take her again, this lanky, angular girl with whom her daughter chatted sometimes. She takes in the details of her, the piercings, the catch, the glide, the tattoo on her shoulder blade, the perfectly painted toenails, and her gaze alights on the back mark on Scarlett's foot, a small tattoo, a pair of letters that she can't first quite make out. Then she sees that it is a trademark symbol. Scarlett's hands reach down and cover the tattoo, hard and fast, like swatting a fly. Their eyes meet briefly, and Kim sees something defensive and raw pass across Scarlett's face. She hitches her bag onto her shoulder. Would it be possible, she says, to speak to your friend Mimi, do you think? Do you have a number for her? She won't know anything more than I do. Please? I'll get her to call you, says Scarlett. Within a minute, they're pushing Noah's buggy back through the wrought iron gate and onto the front courtyard, and Joss is standing under a bower of passion flowers with her gigantic dog, waving them off as they walk toward the driveway. Kim hears the splash of bodies hitting the cool, blue surface of the swimming pool, a small squeal of laughter. Chapter 7, August 2018. Sophie comes from an outdoorsy family. They go on walking holidays and sailing holidays and skiing holidays. Her father runs marathons. Her mother plays golf and tennis. Both her brothers work in the sports industry. Sophie was once a swimmer. She has medals and cups and certificates in a big box in her parents' loft and still has a swimmer's physique, although she barely swims at all these days. When they were all small and getting under her mother's nerves, she would zip them up into their coats and lock them in the back garden. They would moan for a while and then find something to do, usually involving climbing very tall trees and swinging off things that weren't designed to be swung off. So Sophie's very comfortable being outdoors and confident in her ability to find her way about and deal with obstacles alone without assistance. And so she sets off into the woods, sensibly dressed and equipped with water, energy bars, a mobile charger for her phone, her compass, some blasters, sunscreen, a hat, a packet of bright red plastic, space markers, cones that she can drop on the forest floor at intervals if she needs to find her way back. Inside the woods, the tree cover is immense, and very little of she has briefly regained her phone signal and finds that she's about to emerge onto a brittle way. She moves the map across her screen with her finger and sees a linear representation of a large building to her right. After a moment, she sees a turret and a weather vane. Then she sees the curve of an ancient brick wall and a curtain of bright red Virginia creeper. She squeezes through a parade of trees that abuts the wall and finds herself in front of a rusty metal gate, a broken padlock hanging from its bars, and then she is through the gate and into a clump of woodland. The shimmer of blue sky is visible ahead of her, and then she's on a ragged sun-bleached lawn that rolls downward via a wide stone step overgrown with thistles towards a house that looks like something from a Tim Burton movie. Sophie catches her breath and puts a hand to her throat. As she runs down the tiered lawns toward the house, she sees the pool appear. It's dark green, a ripped cover half pulled across it, mulchy dead leaves from the previous winter stacked around it. A pagoda at one end of the pool has been covered in boldly colored graffiti. The terrace between the pool and the house is littered with empty beer cans and cigarette ends, drug paraphernalia, and discarded crisp packets and takeaway containers. How, Sophie wonders, could a house of this magnificence, not to mention market value, have been left like this? Why is it not being taken care of, even while it is uninhabited? She picks her way around the house, trying to peer into windows through gaps in the shutters. At the front of the house is an ornate courtyard, and beyond that, a long cypress-lined driveway that appears to go on for a mile or more. She turns to look at the front door. Above the fanlight, carved into the dark brickwork, is the date, AD 1721. The air is thick and silent here, and nothing else is in sight. This house exists almost on an island. Sophie wonders about the family who lived here, the hedge fund manager and his glamorous wife and then talented teenage daughter. Where are they now, and what on earth possessed them to leave a place like this to go to seed? She checks the time on her phone. It's nearly midday. She stands at the top end of the garden to survey the grandeur of the house. One more time, she takes a photograph, then tucks her phone into the rucksack and heads back down the brittle way and into the woods. Chapter 8, October 2016. Zach called again. Tallulah glances at her mom. About an hour ago. Wondered if I knew where you were because you weren't answering your phone. She shrugs and heads to the baby monitor on the kitchen counter and puts her ear to it, listening for the sound of her son's sleeping breath. How long has he been down? About 35 minutes. She glances at the time. It's 4:30. He'll be hungry any minute. She has a small window of time to get changed, to have a cup of tea, to sort out her college work. She'd been at college for 4 weeks now and had got into a really solid routine. Are you going to call him? Who? Zach, her mom replies impatiently. Are you going to call him? You can't ignore him forever. Tallulah nods. I know, she says, I know. She unknots the laces on her trainers and pulls them off. Then she sighs. Zach asked if they could get back together when he came to visit Noah on Saturday. It was weird because when she was pregnant, all she wanted in the whole world was to be back together with Zach. But now she's a mom. Now she's at college. It's like she's not the same person anymore, and the person she is now doesn't want to be with anymore. She just wants to share her bed, her body, with Noah. She and Zach hadn't been together for nearly 3 years when she got pregnant. She hadn't told him she was pregnant until she was 4 months gone, and then he freaked out and said he needed time to decide how he'd feel about it. And now he knows how he feels about it, but Tallulah is no longer sure that she does. He's a good boy, you know, her mom continues. Yes, I know. She tries to hide her exasperation. She owes her mom everything right now and doesn't want to sound ungrateful. I just don't know what to say to him. You could just say that, her mom suggests. Yes, but he might try to talk me around. I haven't got the energy for it. Tallulah is so tired all the time. During the summer, it had been fine. slept most of the day when he was a newborn, so she had plenty of time to catch up on her sleep. But now he's older and more wakeful, and she's at college 3 mornings a week and has study to do on her days at home. In daytime sleeps are a thing of the past. If Zach starts crying or something, I'll cave. I know I will. Her mom passes her mug of tea, pulls out the chair opposite her, and sits down. But what is it, she begins, that you're not sure about? I don't. But she's saved from having to find the words to explain something she cannot explain by the sound of Noah on the baby monitor rousing from his afternoon sleep. Her mom goes to stand up, but Tallulah wants the bliss and the distraction of scooping her boy from his warm bedsheets and rolling him into her arms against her chest, the sweet heat of his breath against her collarbone. I'll go, she says. I'll go. The following day, Tallulah has college in the morning. She leaves the house with the vignette imprinted on her mind of Noah in her mother's arms. Ryan is in his school uniform, microwaving Noah's milk from her because she's late and she doesn't have the time to do it herself, and stands up at the bus stop opposite their cul-de-sac. The bus is late. After all her rushing about and not saying goodbye properly to her baby son, she sighs impatiently. She's aware then of a presence beside her and turns to see Scarlett jog, sliding along the plastic bench. Have I missed it then? She asks breathlessly. Tallulah doesn't realize for a split second that Scarlett is talking to her and fails to respond. I'll take that as a no, says Scarlett. Sorry, says Tallulah. Yeah, I mean no, you haven't missed it, it's late. Phew, says Scarlett, pulling earbuds from the pocket of her oversized raincoats and starts to put them in to her ears. Then she stops and says, I know you, don't I? You're at Man College, yeah? Tallulah nods. Scarlett nods too and says, I've seen you around. What course are you on? Social care, first year. Ah, so you're new too? Yeah, a few weeks in. How about you? Asks Tallulah, although she knows exactly which course Scarlett's on. Fine art, first year. That's cool, says Tallulah, and then wishes she hadn't said cool. Well, yeah, it's shit, really. I mean, I wanted to go to art school in London, but my parents wouldn't let me because of all the traveling. And I said, well, then rent me a little flat. And they said, no way. And they didn't even get a good enough grade in my art A level to get into any of the good colleges anyway. Not because I'm not good at art, but just because I didn't do the work I needed to do. Story of my life. And yeah, here I am. They both turn at the distinctive rumble of the old-fashioned green bus that services the area as it appears on the far side of the common. Do you leave around here then? Asked Tallulah. No. Well, kind of. About 2 miles away, but I spent the night with my boyfriend. He said Maple. She shrugs in the direction of the imposing odd manor house across the common. Are you allowed to sleep over there? Nope. Most definitely not. But I have a special relationship with the matron there. She loves me. And I'm kind of friends with her daughter too, so she turns a blind eye. The bus approaches and they get in their feet, and Tallulah doesn't know what happens now. Will they sit together? Will they continue to talk? But the decision is taken from her. Scarlett sees a friend at the back of the bus and strides away from Tallulah, throwing her school bag down on the seat and then to herself. Her boy is traveling loudly, almost frantically, down the aisle to the front of the bus, where Tallulah sits alone. But when Tallulah turns just once to look at Scarlett, she finds Scarlett looking straight back at her. The next chapter is chapter 9, and it picks up in June 2017. Okay, that was a great read. We found out a little bit more about Carrie Ann and everything that's going on. I don't know how you feel about this book, but it's very, very gripping, to say the least. I'm sorry I can't keep going for more, but next video I'll try to read at least like 10 chapters or so. We'll see how long we have. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. And can I mention the first video ever that is a second video the same week, I guess, on the channel. I'm very happy you're here if you're still watching. And I can't wait to hang out again together and read some more next time. Until then,